Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a master of wine? It's the most prestigious designation, the most honored certification in the world of wine. It takes years of study. It takes tasting hundreds, if not thousands, of wines. Well, that's exactly what we're going to learn from our guest tonight, who joins me live from California. Oh, and we're just having a few technical issues, but we're working through them here tonight. So folks, please comment in the comments below or to the side, wherever you are. Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a master of wine? Are you curious, yes or no? I would love to know that. But also, our guest tonight is the lead selector for wines for the Opinion Club, which is the country's largest wine buying club. So she's tasting hundreds, if not thousands, of wines and selecting hundreds for this group every year. If you can imagine that daunting, challenging task. I'm Natalie McLean, editor of Canada's largest wine review site, nataliemclean.com, and you've joined us here on the Sunday Sipper Club, where we gather every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, Toronto, New York time, to talk to the most interesting people in the world of wine. Now, before I introduce our guest fully, I would love to know, as I said, yes or no, are you curious about the Master of Wine? Are you curious about the Opinion Club? Maybe you haven't heard about that before. Maybe you are already a member. If you're a member of the Opinion Club, post below. Would love to know that. And just take a moment while we're live to share this video so you can let others know who might be interested in what we're chatting about tonight. And ideally, comment as well, and they'll know why you think it's of interest. If you want to know when we go live every Sunday, click on the follow button, and then you will be notified. All right, so our guest tonight is a Master of Wine. And she received her own designation in 1997. And then she has become the chairman of the Institute of Masters of Wine, based in London, although she joins me from California tonight because she is hosting a seminar for Master of Wine students in San Francisco. And as I said, she's the chief wine selector for the Opinion Society, our country's largest wine buying club. And she joins me now live from California. Welcome to the Sunday Sipper Club, Jane Masters. All right.
Thanks to be here.
Oh, good. Yes. Well, thanks for your patience. I've had a few starts there, but you never know with technology. But thank you, Jane. And I plaudits to you for logging in remotely on the road from your hotel room. So are you teaching a seminar there in San Francisco?
Well, there are quite a few Masters of Wine here at the moment. I haven't been teaching myself, but I've been talking to some of the students. We've got about 98 students here at the moment.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they started, I only arrived yesterday, but they arrived Thursday evening and started on Friday.
Okay.
And they're busy tasting downstairs. So I've just snuck off with a glass of wine.
Oh, very smart. The work never ends.
Yeah.
All right. So Jane, maybe fill in a few details from your own background. When did you know that you wanted to become a Master of Wine? You must have started on your wine journey well before that, sort of Everest.
Yeah, I did. I don't know exactly when I started on my wine journey, because we always had wine and wine at home when I was a kid. But I guess I got really serious about wine when I was at university in the UK. And I actually went off to study winemaking in France and had been in the trade for a number of years. But the moment I decided, it wasn't one moment, but I decided to take my Master of Wine exams whilst I was working for a retail company in the UK. I'd met many Master of Wine over the years. Probably the first person I ever met was Serena Sutcliffe many years ago, actually before I'd ever decided or thought that it was possible to go into the wine trade as a proper job, so to speak. But and then when I did join the trade, I met so many Masters of Wine that were just fascinating in terms of the knowledge that they had, their experience, and it just gave me the taste for it. So
to speak, yes, absolutely. And now last week we had Elise Lambert on the show, and she was named Canada's best sommelier, fifth in the world, but she's a master sommelier. So what would you say are the major differences between the Master of Wine program and the Master Sommelier?
Well, they are quite different.
Okay.
Both test the candidate's knowledge at a very high level. Obviously, master sommeliers are extremely knowledgeable and gifted too. But the way in which we are tested and the breadth, the syllabus, if you like, is quite different in that the master sommelier exams, on the sommelier exams that lead up to that, are very much focused on the on-trade, the restaurant trade. Service of wine is an important factor, as well as tasting and evaluating wines. And in fact, all their exams, as far as I know, I've never sat the master sommelier exams, but they're all done in person and orally. So the Master of Wine exams are quite different. They are, if you like, a little bit more academic in that they are written papers. We are tested on a very wide range of topics, and you have to know both that breadth and depth of each of the subjects. So we have 5 theory papers, and they test everything from how grapes are grown, how wine is made, how wine is matured, and quality control. You're tested on marketing, on the commerce of wine, international trade, and then the more sort of philosophical aspects of wine are incorporated into the last paper as well. And then there's the practical papers, and each practical exam is just over 2-hour exam, where candidates are given a range of 12 wines. In fact, the guys that are here this morning had the pleasure of sitting a mock exam this morning for that time. And basically you're presented with 12 glasses of wine and asked a series of questions. And what is very important isn't just identifying that wine, it's actually being able to explain why you believe it's that grape or that region or that vintage, all based on what you can actually taste and smell in the glass, and being able to actually communicate that and to evaluate the quality of the wine based on what you find in the glass.
Wow.
So
now,
it's quite a different exam to the Master Sommelier.
Wow. And when you are taking it yourself, or what you've seen others going through this process, what do you think is the absolute toughest part of the exams?
Well, I think, first of all, they're tough exams, and I think people struggle with different bits of it depending on what your background in wine has been. So they are trade exams. Everyone works in the wine trade, but may work in different sectors of it.
Okay.
I think an important aspect of sitting the Master of Wine exams is not just your knowledge and being up to speed and sort of at the cutting edge of everything. It's also being able to have the stamina to take the exams for a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you start the week, you have a tasting exam every morning, and then a little break, and then straight into the theory exam. So it's a very demanding week. So tasting exam, theory, and by the end of the week, you're absolutely shattered. So you have to have a certain amount of stamina to get through it.
Wow. And emotional fortitude too, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And then I think the other aspect that is important is to stay calm in those exams, particularly the practical exams, where sometimes you're faced with 12 glasses and you're thinking, oh my God, I've got no idea what these are.
Right.
Stay calm, and to just make sure that you don't try and second guess the examiners. Your mind starts trying to play tricks with you, and actually what you really need to do is just be very, very focused and people approach the exams in different ways, but the way in which I approached it was before even getting too into trying to answer the questions that were being asked on the exam paper, actually smelling and tasting the wines, writing my notes down with a sort of clear, objective viewpoint, and then going back to the questions and saying, okay, where does that lead me? Because if you start thinking, well, I'm sure the examiners wouldn't put that in, or they definitely put clear, objective you start viewpoint, and then going back to the question and saying, okay, where does that lead me? Because if you start thinking, well,
great.
I'm
All
sure the
right. So
examiners
we
wouldn't
are
put that in,
we
or
are live
they
here,
definitely
and I'm seeing some
rejected.
comments. Let me just mute that, and I've got the comments. We are live. Sorry for all the technical challenges here, folks, but I see you now, and it's all working. So we're having a fascinating conversation here with Jane Masters, who is a Master of Wine, and she's also the chairman of the Institute of Masters of Wine. And so welcome Lori and Dave Head from Ottawa and Ontario. Gwen is here. Paul is here from Virginia. Anne's here from Halifax. Excellent. Lori said, I did a bit of research when I was taking my WSET courses, and it's a lot of time, work, and money, yes, to take the MW. Do you think that, Jane, the WSET, is that sort of a good training ground in preparation for the Master of Wine?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
in order to get onto the Master of Wine study program, there are certain criteria that you have to fulfill, and those are really in place to make sure that people are ready to go onto the study program, if you like. So people have to have at least 5 years experience in the wine trade.
Okay.
They have to have passed the WSET diploma or an equivalent. Actually, I didn't come through the WSET route because I trained as a winemaker. I had a sort of different route in, but many Masters of Wine have come through WSET, and I think it's a really good grounding. Having said that, there is still quite a jump from diploma WSET up to Master of Wine. But yes, it's a great route to come in. And the two other criteria that have to be met, there is now, as part of the application process, we ask people to do an online test, and that's really to judge their breadth of knowledge, in that we can have many people that are very skilled in wine, but because they have been focused on one particular area, they may need to actually broaden out their experience before they come onto the study program. So that test actually enables us to give them some feedback to say, okay, you're ready, or actually we think we would recommend that you go off and learn a little bit more about this aspect of the trade, and then come back to us in a year or 2 years' time.
Sure.
And then the other thing that people have to have is two referees, ideally Masters of Wine, or people, professionals in the trade that have worked with them, that can recommend that they feel that those people are ready to join the program.
Wow. So once people get into the program, they've completed that pre-training. How many years does it usually take to complete all the studies? I know it probably varies, and if you don't pass, of course, it's going to take a lot longer. But on average, how many years does it take for someone?
It does vary.
Okay.
The absolute minimum that you can do it in is 3 years. So there are 3 stages to the program. Stage 1, which is obviously when people first join the program, and actually today, as I say, we've got around 100 students down there. We've got some stage 1 and some stage 2 students at the moment.
Okay.
So stage 1 really is the first year. Candidates get to understand more about themselves and the areas that they need to strengthen or bolster in order to move on to stage 2.
Okay.
At the end of stage 1, there's an exam. Some people go straight through. Sometimes actually people may repeat stage 1. Stage 2 is generally the stage that takes the longest, and the one where it can be anything from, it can take another year, or it could take up to 5 years. So you have to complete all the exams within now 5 years.
Okay.
But that is the preparation for sitting the big week that I talked about, the practical and the theory exams.
Okay. So do you have to start over if you don't pass within 5 years?
So what happens quite often is that people may succeed in either the practical side of the exams or the theory, and that often relates, I think, to their previous experience in the trade. So I passed my theory exams first, and I think that's probably because I had trained as a winemaker. I'd done a lot of theory about winemaking, and so that was the easier part for me. But in some cases, it's people that pass the practical and then take a little bit longer to do the theory. And once you've got both those parts, you then go on to the final stage, which is stage 3, which is writing a research project on a topic that has been agreed, that the student has put forward and has been agreed by the institute as something that will be interesting to study, something that they can actually come up with some original research and a conclusion within the sort of scope of what they've put forward, and that will add to the knowledge of the trade, if you like.
Right,
so
right. Sure.
and that can take a year, or people can decide to take a little bit longer. So that's why I say it's difficult to say exactly how long it takes people, but minimum 3 years, probably average is about 5 or 6.
Okay. And what was the topic of your paper? What did you write about?
Gosh. Well, in my day, which is a long time ago, of course, we're talking 21 years ago now, we didn't have a choice at that point. So we didn't have to do a dissertation, but we were, at that point, we were given 5 different topics or titles to choose from. So I think the one I chose was Tradition versus Innovation in Viticultural Research. And I was very fortunate. I spent some time with Paul Pontalier at Chateau Margaux, and then with Richard Smart at Reymat in Spain. So contrasting sort of 2 old world regions, if you like, but one very, very traditional classic Bordeaux top chateau, with Reymat in Spain with Richard Smart, who brought in all his theories and philosophies about canopy management, and it was absolutely fascinating. You learn a huge amount from doing the dissertation, as it was called then, or the research paper now.
It really sounds like a PhD for wine.
Yeah, it's not quite at the level of a PhD, but it's original research. It makes you think, and it's great.
Awesome. Wow. So we've got lots of people coming in. Dave is wondering if you train at the gym because you're in such good shape and you're drinking all this wine.
I don't like gyms at all.
Oh.
I do try, and I actually have my yoga mat with me.
Oh, good for you. That's discipline.
I like in North America because the hotel rooms usually have space to do it, whereas sometimes in Europe the rooms are a bit too small, so I end up moving furniture and things. But no, yoga, and sometimes I do, well, not everywhere, but take my swimming costume and try and get into the pool. So just
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I was imagining, you're lifting the hoses at a winery or...
Oh, well, yeah, abs. That was the old days. I don't do that anymore.
Abs of stainless steel, tanks or whatever. Anyway, welcome. Jan is here. Beverly is here from California. She's drinking Gift by Kathy Lee Gifford. Oh, I didn't know she had a wine. Catherine Campbell's just joined. So has Bill Ellis, Rob Clipperton, Viola Pickram, John Steves, Mike Welling. Hey, it sounds like a lot of work. So much easier just to buy and drink. That's why we're here, Mike. We're here for you to recommend, so you don't have to go get yourself an MW. So now in this, who are some of the most interesting people you've met, Jane, who have applied for the Master of Wine, been successful? Tell us about a few of the candidates who either had a very interesting or different background, or who now work in a very unusual type job and have come through the Master of Wine program.
Yeah. Oh, that's a difficult question. I mean, first of all, the Master of Wine program is aimed at the trade. So people have to be in the trade, and they have to have been in the trade for a number of years. Having said that, there are a number of people that, have changed careers and had previous careers and then seen the light and joined the wine trade. The most interesting, I'm not sure. I know that we've got one of our Greek Masters of Wine was a fighter pilot.
Ah, okay.
What else have we got? I know that many of our Masters of Wine have done, not just in their professional lives, but some really interesting things. Jean-Michel Valette, one of our previous chairmen, has climbed Mount Everest. I think we have a Master of Wine who's rowed across the Atlantic.
These are real go-getters.
Yeah. Some amazingly gifted musicians.
Wow.
Yeah, just
interesting. Fascinating.
Fascinating. But then the wine trade is full of fascinating people.
It is, isn't it? Yes.
Amazing things.
Absolutely. So what were okay, so for someone studying for the Master of Wine or anyone just wanting to up their game when it comes to tasting wine, do you have some tips when it comes to like tasting a wine? Or is there specific advice you give? I mean, we always get the 5 stages, the color, the body, and so on. But is there anything you advise in particular that helps people become better tasters?
Oh, I think becoming a better taster is a lot of it is about practice. So
Sure.
as you say,
Yeah.
you all know the 5 stages of tasting. I think it's actually engaging the brain whilst you're doing those things as well. I think sometimes, and I think as wine professionals, we do it because you almost get into a routine of just swirling your glass and doing this.
Yeah, I swirl orange juice.
I was going to say we find ourselves doing it with glasses of water and orange juice and sorts of things, which means it's sort of on autopilot.
Yes.
So I think it's very important. The experience is important, and practice is important, but making sure that you are actually thinking, if you want to. I'm not saying, that at the end of the day when you just want to relax and have a glass of wine, we all need to sort of sit around and think about it too much. I think you just have to, wine is there to be enjoyed, and that's how you should do it. But if you're looking to improve your sort of knowledge and experience, and it is just about tasting as many things as you can and paying attention when you can. And for me, I have to write notes, because as much as I enjoy a wine at the time and I think, wow, this is amazing, I will remember this. Sadly, I do for a few days, and then about a week later I think, oh, what was the vintage of that wine I thought was so great? I can't quite remember now, so I have to write things down. But everyone is different. So
yeah, but that's a good point, Jane. Because when we're at the beginning of learning to taste wine, it's it's remembering to pay attention. Like I always say that. Or somebody else said this, it's not my original, but the difference between drinking and tasting is thinking. So I think when we start out, it's paying attention. But you're right, you can taste so many wines, you get to farther and farther in your career, and you're on autopilot, which is another form of absent-mindedness. And you've got to get back to paying attention to what is in my glass. What am I?
And it's not just about wine, I think. Quite often, I think it's about paying attention to lots of smells and the things around us too. And I'm very fortunate in that a lot of the time I'm in France, and we have amazing fruit and vegetable markets and things, and just smelling and tasting, smelling different types of citrus fruits in the market when they're in season, paying attention to that. Even when I'm traveling in the airport lounges, I'll go, if I've got some time to kill, then I'll go into the perfume counters and sort of sniff some of those different perfumes and things. And just, I think you build up a data bank, if you like, in your mind. And having those points of reference also helps you when you're trying to describe or describe for yourself or for other people what a wine tastes like.
Absolutely. Have you ever tasted or smelled a wine that was close to Chanel number 5?
No, not really.
No, okay. That's probably a good thing. All right. I'd like to welcome Aluzio. Let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name. And if you've just joined us, please let us know where you're logging in from, folks. So many great people have come here. Tom Muse is here. Jeff Audish, Dean Johnson, Lori Kilmartin. What does Jane have in her glass?
I had a horrible feeling someone was going to ask me.
Do you know?
I ran into the seminar downstairs and I said, I need a glass of wine. And I didn't pay too much attention, but I think I've got, I think it's a Chianti, and I am pretty sure it's, I didn't look too closely, but it's a Chianti Reserva 2012.
There you go. You can identify it blind anyway.
Well, no, that wasn't blind. But I knew that some of the wines that they had out there in the tasting. So
okay, yeah. Awesome. That's great. Beverly, I do the same as Jane. I have to take notes, but I find the year the wines are made differ from year to year. Do you feel this? Oh yes, definitely. The wines differ from vintage to vintage or year to year, Beverly, absolutely. So Jane, I also we'll come back to more Master of Wine topics, but since our time is rolling quickly here, I also want to make sure we talk about the Opimian Society, because what would be your official title or job description with Opimian, which is our country's largest wine buying club?
Well, I'm the consultant master of wine.
Okay.
So all the wines that appear in the opinion offerings have been tasted and selected by me, and I also write about those wines in the offerings that go out to members. So,
Okay.
yeah, my official title, I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but I think it's consultant master of wines.
Okay. And so you're tasting and selecting hundreds of wines that go into, I think it's about 8 releases or catalogs that get mailed to about 20,000 people across the country. And they're selecting based on your tasting notes what they're going to buy and get shipped directly to their local liquor store where they pick it up. So what's I know I had one question from Carl Bird, who is with the Opinion. He wanted to know, right after you became a master of wine, following becoming an MW, what was your first experience with Opinion in this role? Can you remember your first some of your first experiences?
In the role.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can remember my first experience of Opinion, which was before I was actually in the role, and that was when I went to meet the board for the interview.
Oh.
That was quite an experience, I can tell you.
How did they interview? Did you get you to taste in front of them?
There were 12 board members and I think 3 or 4 other members of staff in the room, and I was quizzed, having flown in from the UK, which was quite an experience. But no, seriously, when I was then appointed to Opinion, a lot of the work that I do is remote to the office. Obviously, I do go to Canada, but only 2 or 3 times a year. So all the tasting is done. Everything gets sent to me from the producers directly to my office in London, where it's tasted. But I think my first sort of real moment would have been, and I'm not sure exactly what event it would have been, but the member events that Opinion holds, where I don't know how much your listeners know about Opinion, but as well as receiving catalogues, the club also has area reps, so people who are actually members of Opinion themselves, who are based in different regions around the country and who will hold events, tasting events that they organise, and there will be guest speakers, and I have participated in a number of those. And just every time I go to one of those, the mix of people, there are members that have been members for many, many years who are absolutely passionate. There are new members that join. We always have. There's just an electric atmosphere in the room, just real enjoyment. It's people who enjoy wine. It's not necessarily, it's not necessarily wanting the same level of knowledge as our students downstairs who are preparing for the exams, but people are interested in the producers, in the wines, where they come from, and then interested in so many other things, and just meeting other people. And
absolutely,
it's a fascinating club.
It is.
It's really good fun.
It's a really good social club for people who love wine. I'm a member as well, and I've been to some of those events that you talk about, and they are fun. I mean, Opinion Society might sound highfalutin and snobby. It is not. It is really down to earth. It's about people wanting to find great wines and share that experience with others, whether it's at these events or they also have a Facebook group, and it's really active. So, but maybe tell us about one of the most challenging wines you had to find, or a most interesting story that where you sourced a wine for Opinion. I don't know, you had to go some extra mile or something was different about it.
Yeah, it's again, it's difficult to pick one thing, but I'm at the moment there is I think the offering that's open to members right now is a South American offering, which I worked on a few months ago now. So it features Chile and Argentina, and one of the things I'm really pleased, and I was actually in Chile, and so were a number of other Opinion members actually last November. And I'm so chuffed that we've actually included in that a couple of new producers, Antiel being one of them, and Alvaro Espinosa, who is, I think, and who I have known for many years. Actually, we studied winemaking together in Bordeaux, but who is one of the best, I believe, one of the best winemakers in Chile, and also one of the leading experts on biodynamics, but one of the most humble, individuals. He is just such a fascinating person and makes absolutely amazing wine. And so to get him to agree to supply Opimium exclusively when actually, you know, he's sought after everywhere around the world, for me was a bit of a coup, I would have to say.
Wow.
So.
That's awesome. And remind us the name of the winery, because this is in the current offering.
The winery is called Antial.
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 Okay.
And the winemaker is Alvaro Espinosa, and there are, I can't remember now, it's a while ago since I chose them, I can't remember, there's 4 or 5 wines from him in there, and they're all absolutely delicious. So.
Well, fortunately you took notes, so you don't have to remember now.
No, I've got the information.
So I noticed, like when I look through the Opimium catalog, not all the wines are scored. You do score some of them, but I was just curious why you don't score every wine with the tasting note.
I don't think you'll see any scores in there. Normally I don't score. I do score, but I score the wines for myself.
Okay.
There's a reason for that, and I think that I think scores are important, but I don't think they're the be all and end all. I think what is very important is that people find the wines that they enjoy, and that the description of the wines, what they taste like, and what they go with is more beneficial, of more use, more value to our members. So I like to focus on those descriptions, and that people can find, you know, if they enjoy a Sauvignon from a particular region, that we've got alternative things that they might enjoy of a similar style.
Right.
Maybe Sauvignons from other regions, or maybe other grape varieties, but which fall into that sort of category. So I do score wines. I score them out of 20 for my own benefit, and they're based, and again, you know, if you're looking at scores that anyone has written, you have to understand the context in which they've done it. So
Absolutely.
My scores are not absolute scores. They're scored in terms of the price of the wine and the value for money that it offers. So I think it's I prefer to actually concentrate on what the wines actually taste like than publishing scores.
Yeah, absolutely. That is true. People really gravitate toward the score. It's just they do that quick QPR, quality, meaning the score, price ratio, and try to maximize the dollar and point score ratio, but it's not always the case. I just want to take a moment to pause here, folks, and just let you know that if you are enjoying our chat, please share this video. And even better, when you share, let others know why, or tell them that they might enjoy this, even if they catch the replay. And if that's what you're doing now, that's great. Those who do share and comment will be eligible to win a signed copy of Unquenchable, which we'll announce next week. And I will be announcing winners at the end of this session for last week's contest. So do that. And if you want to know when we go live, please click on the follow button. So I'm going to go back now to some comments here, which are piling in here. Marty, welcome Marty Brett and Bill Daly. Paul Hollander, is this group just for wines in Canada, or does it include the US? This is just a Canadian club, I believe, yes. And Beverly had that question as well. All right, Mike Welling, question for Jane. With her outstanding appreciation of wine, does she favor any type of cuisine to complement her choices, or are there any beverages she partakes in that she finds as interesting as wine? Okay, so it's kind of two questions. So cuisines, do you favor certain cuisines that you find generally are very harmonious with wine? That's the first question, Jane.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love food, probably as much as I love wine. So we do a lot of cooking at home. I wouldn't say I favor any particular cuisine, because I think some are more difficult to match to food than others. And probably one of the ones that I love, and which is very popular in the UK, is Indian cuisine, and that I find quite difficult to match with wines. Although, you know, there are a lot of sort of more aromatic wines that go very, very nicely with Indian food. But no, we eat a lot of French, Italian, Thai food, Indian food, Japanese. So yeah, it's the challenge of actually also, when you're cooking at home and designing a dish, what are we going to drink with it, because quite often it's my other half that does the cooking, so I have to then make the wine, whereas I would sometimes work the other way around. I fancy this wine, let's find what we're going to eat
Food,
with
yes. Well, you sound like a good pairing with your other half. Food and wine.
Yeah.
Well taken care of. And Mike also asks, are there other beverages you partake in that you find as interesting as wine? I'm assuming you're talking about alcohol, but maybe not. Maybe tea,
I mean,
whatever.
we both, myself and Rob, like gin. And
Okay.
that's obviously a hugely, I don't know whether it's taken off in Canada to the same extent, but in the UK, in Spain, in France, gin is a massive, massive area now where people are launching new gins all the time. Okay. Many of them, I have to say, I'm not that keen. I come back to some of the old classics and things, but yeah, we have been known to sit there doing gin comparisons and trying different gins with different tonic waters and being a little bit anarchy about that.
That's great.
Spirits, well, I don't drink a lot of spirits, but I did work in cognac when I was a student and sort of between studies and things. So I am interested in cognac and in malt whiskey, although I'm by no means an expert on whiskey. I mean, there's just anything that has, smells and flavors. Yeah, it's interesting. It's just how much time do you have for all these different things?
And how much can your liver take, I guess. Well, Jane, this has just flown by. I can't believe we're already at quarter to the hour. So I kind of wanted to wrap up, and then I have some more stuff for you folks. So stay online after we wrap up this piece of conversation, because I have lots of announcements for you. But Jane, where can people find you online if they want to interact? Are you on Twitter or?
No.
No, okay, that's all right. Facebook, I guess through the Opinion page, we could find you there.
Would be, yeah. Not that I don't want to talk to people.
No.
It's just I to be quite honest, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to technology and social media, but and because I travel a lot and have a lot of emails and things. But no, of course, if there are any questions or any contact, then through Opinion is the best route.
Absolutely. And I Jane, will send you the link to our chat tonight after it ends. It'd be great if you do have some time to go in and respond to some of the questions we didn't get to. They all went so fast. That would be awesome. I really appreciate you joining us here, Jane. And I wish you best of luck with your travels, the seminar, and of course, all of the massive projects you have on the go, from Opinion to the Institute of MWs. Congratulations on such an accomplished career, and we look forward to what you do next.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks. So let's continue here. And I have several things I wanted to share with you. So thank you for biding with me while the tech issues got sorted out. Not quite sure, but as you can see, I'm trying out a new template, a bunch of new things, and that always happens. So in the comments, I would love to know what you felt to be the most interesting point you learned tonight. I would love to, even if just a short, I think I did not put sound on that slide. So if you could post the most interesting comment or point that you learned tonight in the comments, that would be great. What did you learn? What was interesting? What did you like most? Now, let me see. Next week's guest. Oh, and don't forget, I'm going to announce the winners of last week's contest at the end of this, so stay tuned. But next week's guest, you're going to love her. She is, now let's see, make sure my slides are working here. Her name is Tiller or Tyler. I'm going to find out the exact pronunciation of her name. But she has written New York Times bestselling books on Veuve Clicquot, on Napa wineries. She did a biography of Chanel, speaking of perfume and suits. And she teaches English at the Colby College, which is a prestigious college in Maine. But she's also a husband-wife team of a winery in BC. I didn't realize that about her. She splits her time between BC and Maine. So she's on next week. And I also wanted to let you know, for our Quick Start to Get Wine Smart course members, we go live at 7 p.m., so about 10-15 minutes from now inside our Facebook group, and we are having a very fun tasting tonight. We're pairing up wines with 3 different types of chips. So we've got salt and vinegar, ketchup, and Doritos. Yes, it's very serious and snobby. No kidding. You can have fun with tasting. It's still going to be a structured themed tasting, but you're going to see some dramatic differences in pairings. This is all to get you ready for the Super Bowl, including those who plan not to watch the Super Bowl, like me. All right, then. So, again, if you enjoyed this conversation, please take just a moment to share it with your friends, even though we're wrapping up here. Even if you're watching the replay, let people know that, hey, this was a fun chat, worth watching. And again, you could win the prize that will be announced next week, a signed copy of Unquenchable. And when you're sharing it, comment. Let them know why. And lastly, if you want to get notified when we go live, if you want to know, get the heads up, click on follow, and you will. Alrighty, so prize winners for last week's contest. Now, I did say there would be 2 winners, each getting a copy of, or there's 1 copy of Unquenchable, 1 copy of Red, White, and Drunk All Over. So the winners are Lori Kilmartin is 1 winner, and we've got, let me look this up here. I have to get to it. Tom Dean is the other winner. Tom Dean and Lori Kilmartin. Congratulations, guys. So, let me just wrap this up by saying thank you very much for joining me here. And if you're watching the replay, just rest assured that both Jane and I will jump back into the comments throughout the week to answer your questions that we did not get to. I always love to hear from you and suggestions for future guests. Thank you, Joe. Joe, I'm so glad you were here with us tonight. I would love to see you here. And Tina Stewart joined, and Dave says, what about Kermit Lynch or his son? Yes, that's a great idea for a guest. Paul says, congratulations to the winners. This is fantastic. I'm learning all sorts tonight about you folks and about the technology. So, next week, join us for Tyler Mazio, fascinating woman, very bright, and writing about some great topics in the wine world. Veuve Clicquot and Backroads of Napa Valley Wineries. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and I will see you next Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, Toronto, New York time. Take care.